Star Wars creator George Lucas recently sat down for 90 minutes at the Cannes Film Festival for an interview on a variety of topics. But of course, one of them was Star Wars. And what he said about Disney and Star Wars today, well, might surprise a few people.
Renegade Online.
All right, here was the next section, and this is where some of these articles came from that we saw talking about George Lucas talking about how there, the whole issue of, well, there was too many white people in Star Wars, and people have taken this into statements on current Star Wars diversity and all this kind of stuff. So I want you to listen to what he actually says, then we'll show you some of the comments being made out there. We let the audience judge here what you heard.
Movie was to make people realize that everybody is equal, no matter where they're from, no matter what they look like. That is the important thing, and it's all over. I mean, the whole movie is that way. The other part of that was they said, well, when they, the critics kept saying, well, there's no, what we mean is there's no black people in the movie. Well, in the first one, there were a few Tunisians who were dark, but in the second one, I had, Billy D. Williams, and in the third one, and in the new ones, which they were also criticizing, I had Sam Jackson. He was like he wasn't a scoundrel like Billy Williams. Yeah, like
Lando.
But he was one of the top Jedi. He was and he wanted to be in it so bad that all he really wanted was a purple sword. And so I said, great. No, but we paid him a regular salary, but the secret to Sam, who's a fantastic actor and has been in a gazillion movies, his agent said, don't tell him that, we could get a big thing out of it. I said, look, it's a small part, it's the best I can do. I may be able to extend it to the other two movies, because this could be a key character. And but he did it for very little, but I gave him a percentage, but it wasn't net. It wasn't gross, it was net. And for us, because I was financing them myself, net and gross were the same thing. So we did that, but the other part of it was they said later on, when they were making more movies, they said, there's no women in the movies. I said, who do you think the heroes are in those films? What do you think Princess Leia was? She is the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid that doesn't know anything and this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything and trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. I said, she's the hero of the movie. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. Even though she has Jedi on her side, she was still the hero prime mover. And they said, well, but there's no women, I said, you can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and do and plan and be logistical, and that's what the hero is.
Basically, not.
He's against strong female characters.
I mean,
I like the comment.
I've never come away from thinking Leia was the protagonist of the series.
Yeah, from that standpoint, I found that side of things a little curious. Like, you could say she was a hero of the movie. I think that would be accurate. I understand what he's saying from a narrative perspective. What jumped out at me, though, was because there's some other comments in here that, and we've heard comments from George before when things come up about, well, what do you think about what Disney did to this? And he gets very standoffish. But this idea that he just said, just like, you can't just put a girl in pants and call her a hero. You know, you have to basically set her up for this. It just, again, I think it was another little swipe at what Disney did with Rey, because that's basically what they did with her. They just swapped the Luke Skywalker character for a female lead and gave the audience nothing to really build it up.
Yeah.
And tried to go
they
the
put
cheap
pants
way.
on her and turned on coder mode, and then she just was invincible.
That's it. That was basically, you know, where he was going with that. So like I said, that quote to me jumped out as probably being the most, you know, the most striking there. I'll play it one
trying
more time.
to save the rebellion with these clowns. I said, she's the hero of the movie. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. Even though she has Jedi on her side, she was still the hero prime mover. And they said, well, but there's no women.
The prime, you see, the prime mover of the heroes. I see what he's saying there. She was kind of a catalyst to get them moving in a certain direction.
Yeah, you could say that.
You know,
Yeah.
I said, you can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. You know, they can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and do and plan and be logistical, and you know, that's what the hero is. When I sold the company, I just sort of said, because I had a baby girl, I got married, I had a different life, and I said, I'm gonna, you know, and I didn't, because I knew it would take me another 10 years to make those films. And I said, and I was 69, and I said, I'm not gonna be doing this when I'm 79.
Now, I just want to stipulate for the audience, it's going to be another 10 years before I make those films. Everybody remember the 3 treatments that Bob Iger demanded, as per his own autobiography, that George Lucas had written for those movies, be included in the $4 billion sale. Bob Iger took those films that George Lucas was going to spend the next 10 years on and threw them in the trash, and then went in a different direction.
I was the only one that really knew what Star Wars was, and Gershon and I were really good friends, so it was like...
Talking about, just folks, if you can't understand, he's talking about when he was on the set of Empire Strikes Back. He's making a comparison now to where I sold Star Wars, I had to let somebody else take it over, and there's still a moment where I guess he kind of feels like a little bit of remorse for letting it go, and he's comparing it to Empire Strikes Back when he basically turned the reins over to Irvin Kershner, who was a masterful director and storyteller. He's the one that did Empire Strikes Back, and Lucas was on the set as a consultant, kind of essentially in his own words, because he was the only one that understood Star Wars. Not much has changed since then. At least in my opinion.
And so I was like the consultant, the advisor who actually knew the world, because there's a lot to it. The Force, nobody understood the Force. Nobody, you know, what they do is, and then they started other ones when I sold the company, and they, you know, a lot of those ideas that were in there sort of got lost. But
ouch, there it is. He's talking again, the comparison to himself working on Empire, turning it over to Irvin Kershner, but he was on the set there as a consultant, kind of like now, where after he sold the company, and you could see he was kind of thinking, trying to be a little careful with his answers there and naming names, I guess, and things, but saying very clearly that I sold it. A lot of those ideas got lost. They went somewhere else. It's another one of these instances, just like a few years ago when Lucas was speaking to a class of students, I believe it was via video call. He was speaking to a class of students in Harlem, New York, if I'm not mistaken. Melody Hobson was doing a thing, and he was there with his wife, and they were talking about Star Wars. The question came up. They asked him about Star Wars and diversity in Star Wars, and his answer was very dismissive about, look, I sold it. I'm not involved with it. They went in another direction, were almost his exact words. And it sounds like he says the same thing very much here again.
It's very interesting just to hear all this from him now, after you know the past 25 years.
Well, 25 years, or specifically since selling it to Disney?
Well, I mean, it's actually since selling it to Disney, but I mean, you know, the whole just the way he handled things. He's still struggling not to say, no, it's the fans who were wrong, not me. instead of just admitting, okay, well, maybe they had a point.
I think he's been pretty clear the few times that he has made statements since the sale that he seems regretful of what has happened to it since he left, but he seems to have resigned himself to the fact, as he stated here, look, I sold it. That's just the way it is. It's not my thing anymore. They went in a different direction. The Force used to mean this and that, but those ideas, as he says here, I'll play it again, just kind of got lost. And again, I found it interesting that he compared this to when he stepped back, I should say, after the first film in 1977. He stepped back and he let Irvin Kershner, Kersh as he calls him, he let Kersh come in and take over Empire Strikes Back, which was arguably one of the best decisions I think he ever made, because people regard that as the most masterful of the three originals. He kind of acted as a consultant because he was the only one that understood the Force. And then in the same breath, he's comparing that, at least what I took away, he was making a comparison to today, because that's kind of what the question was, relating to where Disney is with Star Wars. Like they still don't really understand. They don't understand the Force. They went in a different direction. All my ideas about what this was seem to have been lost.
So I was like the consultant, the advisor who actually knew the world, because there's a lot to it. The Force, nobody understood the Force. Nobody, what they do is, and then they started other ones when I sold the company, and they, a lot of those ideas that were in there sort of got lost. But
they started other ones, meaning they came up with other ideas about what the Force was after I sold the company, and that's kind of gotten lost. I mean, again, he's made statements like this in the past several years. He seems pretty consistent with it. But yeah, it's like we said, everybody scratches their head. Then why come out and make a statement like you did? Why? You didn't have to do it, right? You didn't have to come out and make a statement supporting Bob Iger in that Proxy fight. But no, I thought this was great from Robot Head. And it's like giving you an idea of this is what Disney is now. This is what it's become. All that shilling, and this is your reward, Star Wars. And there's Dave Filoni and Leslie Headland, and of course we're about to get the Acolyte and all the great stuff from these people. Basically everything that is like, this is what George is talking about, where this is just going off in a completely different direction. I mean, you have a show. Remember, George Lucas is sitting here talking about Star Wars was a movie that was made for kids. I don't know if he meant exclusively for kids, but I mean, he made it as a movie that young kids could understand, and the whole family could go see. And now we have shows like The Acolyte being made by Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland there in the green Freddy Krueger t-shirt that she's got rocking in the middle of that picture. This whole series needed an intimacy coordinator for the episodes, because I guess we're going to have Jedi sex now in this thing. And then all the other whatever this is, and why, I don't know. Gender things going on, LGBT things going on in Jedi Star Wars characters now. Again, Lucas necessarily isn't in opposition to those kind of things, but it's like this, it just doesn't work in Star Wars. Star Wars is not, it's separate from all that. It's not supposed to be all that. It's not supposed to involve modern day politics and social stuff. It's just Star Wars. And it's I think, as he said, it's going off in a different direction for him. So
those are the people that Lucas sold it off to, and those are your executioners. What Star Wars looked up as at those smiling faces, and that's the last thing it saw.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of thing. This is your Star Wars now. And hey, just in time for June. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.